Hello, how are you doing? I'm so happy to have you here today. So, welcome to this class. And my name is Antonio Galimberti. I'm so happy to be here. Look at my hair, it's kind of crazy today. Thank you very much for being here. And let me know if you can hear me very well because a few minutes ago we recorded the very same class but explained in Spanish. So, if you have problems, listening to me, just let me know. Send a message right there. All right. So today we are talking about past experiences. This is a little bit related with what we did last class, but something cool about it or about today's class is that we will be able to contrast and compare the present perfect against the simple past. That is going to be our main focus today, okay? But we will also review the simple present to see how we can use the simple present when we narrate stories about the past. So, simple present, present perfect, and simple past. That's the class about. We will also review our test taking strategies when it comes to taking international exams like this one or like this one. When you have cards in order to create a conversation, we will write a paragraph with 176 words. This is class number 65 about visiting New York. And then we will review some irregular verbs to be used with the present perfect, pronunciation of verbs in the past participle. And remember, if you are interested in taking online classes with us, visit agentlanguages.com/contactanos, and there you can send your comments or your requests. Remember this, we serve all levels, all ages, and all needs. Thank you very much for following us on social media. And if you have any questions and answers, leave your questions down there so that we can have a Q&A section at the end of the class. So are you ready to start? Let's start with a speaking part of this class. Here we go. Hi, welcome to class number 65. This is class speaking number 65. Today we are going to be talking about past experiences, and we will review the present perfect and the simple past. What do we have here? We have the structure of the present perfect. Remember this. The present perfect is used to talk about past events when you don't want to say when something happened, when there are no specific time markers about the past. Okay, what do you need to build a sentence in the past in the present perfect? You need a subject in light blue, an auxiliary in yellow, and a verb in the past participle form that you see in orange. Okay, if the verb is regular, it will finish in ed. Okay, so I have visited New York once. I haven't visited Los Angeles. This is to talk about things that you have done in the past or that you have never done in the past, but you don't say when. You can also use irregular verbs. Okay, you have a regular verb here in orange. That's why it finishes in ed. Here, this is an irregular verb. You have subject in light blue, the auxiliary in yellow, and the verb in past participle in orange. This is an irregular verb. That's why it doesn't finish in ed. Example, I have been to New York once. Number two, I haven't been to Los Angeles. Nice. So this is about things that you have done in the past, but you don't say when those things happened. However, when you use or when you talk about the past and specific past, a specific time in the past, what do you need? You need to use the simple past. Here I have I visited New York in 1997. Then you have I didn't visit Los Angeles last summer. So what is this about? Specific events in the past expressed using the simple past. How do you know that these events are specific about the past in a specific manner? Because you have time markers that relate to a specific time in the past. For example, in 1997 or last summer. And look at the construction of the sentence. You have the subject, I. Right after that, you have a verb in the simple past form. If it's affirmative, it finishes in ed, but if it's a negative sentence, you have the auxiliary didn't, and your verb is in base form. So do you see the difference? I visited, I didn't visit, correct? Nice. Now, if you are using the simple past uh, in a sentence with a verb to be, remember to use was or wasn't. Here you don't need auxiliaries for your sentences in negative form. Why? Because the verb to be is a special verb. It can, so to speak, turn into an auxiliary by itself. So it doesn't need help from any other auxiliaries. So I was at a concert last night. I wasn't with my family last weekend. The verb to be in the simple past. Why are we using the simple past here? Because our time expressions are about specific times in the past. For example, in number 1, last night. In number 2, last weekend. Cool. Here, present perfect again, but with a different subject. Here you have she. If you have she, remember, your auxiliary is going to be has or hasn't. And then you have a verb in the past participle. So you will always need an auxiliary in the present perfect. It doesn't matter if your sentence is affirmative or negative, you will always need an auxiliary. Look at this. She has visited New York once. She hasn't visited Los Angeles. Cool. This is the very same thing, but with an irregular verb. She has been to New York once. She hasn't been to Los Angeles. Look at the regular verb in orange. It finishes in ed. And when it's irregular, you have to change the whole verb. All right? Now, but if you are talking about specific time, for example, number 1, in 1997, specific time. Number 2, last summer, you have to use the simple past to talk about specific events in the past. She visited New York in 1997. She didn't visit Los Angeles last summer. Something cool about the simple past is that it doesn't matter what your subject is, light blue, your verbs are always going to be the same and your auxiliaries are always going to be the same unless you're using the verb to be. If you're using the verb to be and your subject is she, then the verb to be has to be was or wasn't. She was at a concert last night. She wasn't with my family last weekend. Specific time expressions, last night, last weekend. Subject she, light blue, verb was or wasn't in orange. Now, can you make questions using the present perfect to talk about things that happened in the past, but that you don't want to say when they happened? Yes. For example, number 1, have you ever been to New York? Number 2, has she ever been to New York? Pay attention to yellow. The auxiliary in yellow is going to change depending on light blue, on your subject. So, have you, has she, have you, has she. Have you ever been to New York, or has she ever been to New York? Cool. Possible answers. Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Next, yes, she has. No, she hasn't. Nice. Simple past. I love the simple past because it's easier in the sense that you only need one auxiliary. Did. Did. No matter what you have in light blue in the subject. Did you? Did she? Did you? Did she? Did you? Did she? And your verb, visit, is always going to be in base form. You are never going to change the verb if you have did, okay? Examples. Did you visit New York on your last vacation? Next, did she visit New York on her last vacation? You see? So it doesn't matter what your subject is in light blue, you will always have did, all right, as your auxiliary. Possible answers. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Yes, she did. No, she didn't. This is basically a review of many of the things that we have been talking about. It's been 65 classes so far. Okay, paying attention to the verb to be in the past. Were you? Were you? Were you? Was she? Was she? Were you? Was she? Were you? Was she? Okay. Were you at home last weekend? Was she at home last weekend? Here you have the verb to be before the subject because, as I mentioned, the verb to be is a very independent verb. It can take the place of an auxiliary, especially in questions and negatives. All right? Possible answers. Yes, I was. No, I wasn't. Yes, she was. No, she wasn't. Cool. Now, we're going to use all of this to talk about test taking strategies, especially if we are planning to take exams like the Pearson English International Certificate. And if you take this exam, there's a task like this with a card like this, and you have to create a conversation using this card. Remember, today we're talking about past experiences. That's why we are reviewing, or we're going to use the present perfect and the simple past to create a conversation. We have the instructions here. It says, imagine you're talking to a friend about some of your trips. Your partner is your friend. He will ask you questions and make comments. That's nice. And this is the card. We have to follow the instructions that we see in this card and interact with the other person that is taking the exam with us. It says, tell your friend how your trip was. 2. Tell him what city you visited. 3. Tell him if it was your first time there. 4. Tell him what you did during your trip and ask him if he was ever been to that city. 5. Tell him what you were not able to do. 6. Show him some photos on your mobile device. Great. So we have to follow all of these instructions that are in this card in order to create a conversation like this. All right. So light blue is probably your coworker or a friend, and yellow is you. You are the one who have been traveling lately. You went on a trip probably last week, okay? And you are yellow, and light blue is asking you questions about your trips. This trip and other trips, okay? Light blue, 1. Welcome back. I heard you were on a trip. How was it? Yellow, 1. Thanks. It was awesome. Light blue, 2. I can imagine. Where did you travel? Yellow, 2. I visited New York with my family. Light blue, 3. Nice. Was it your first time there? Yellow, 3. Not really. I have been to New York more than 4 times. Light blue, 4. Nice. I should have said wow there. Number 4. Wow. What did you do this time? Yellow, 4. I saw a Broadway show with my family. I think it was the best part of the trip. What about you? Have you ever been to New York? 5. Light blue. Yes, I have. I have been there twice. On both occasions, I was not able to see as many things as I wanted to. Yellow, 5. I know. We wanted to go to the 9/11 memorial, but we didn't have enough time. 6. Light blue. Oh, I have watched some videos about it. It seems to be a good place to visit. I'm sure you have a nice, I'm sure you have nice pictures of your trip. Yellow, 6. I do. Let me show you some. What grammar do you see? Well, first of all, this is a conversation between yellow and light blue. Yellow was on a trip. Light blue is asking questions, right, about the trip. So grammar in light blue, number 1, simple past, specific events. You were, subject you, verb were. Next, was it. This is a question, so that's why we have the order of the words in a different position. First you have the verb was, and then you have the subject it, was it. Number 2, did you travel? This is the simple past. Did you travel? Number 3, was it? Simple past. The verb to be was and your subject it. Number 4, Light blue. We're doing light blue. Did you do? Did you do? Simple past. All of that is to talk about specific events in the past. Auxiliary did, subject you, verb do. Next, number 5. Yes, I have. This is a short answer, affirmative short answer, coming from a question in the present perfect. And look at what the person says right after that. I have been. I have been. Present perfect to say that this person has been in New York twice. When? We don't care. Twice in my life in the past. I have been. Subject I, auxiliary have, verb been. I was not able to. I was not able to. Verb I was not. Next, I wanted. I wanted. Verb I wanted. This is a regular verb, that's why it finishes in ed. Next, I have watched. I have watched. Present perfect. Subject I, auxiliary have, verb watched. Yellow. I was. I was. Subject it, verb was. Next, I visited, simple past. I, subject, visited, the verb in the simple past form. It finishes in ed. I have been. I have been. Subject I, auxiliary have, verb been. I saw. I saw, simple past. Auxiliary I, verb saw. Next, it was, subject it, verb was. Have you ever been? Present perfect, auxiliary have, subject you, ever, a adverb, been, verb in past participle. Remember, have you ever been to New York in your life? When? I don't care. Just in the past. Next, we wanted, subject. We wanted in the simple past. Ed because it's a regular verb. We didn't have. We didn't have. We, subject, didn't, auxiliary in negative form, have the verb in base form. Because remember, when you make a sentence in the simple past and your sentence is negative, you're going to use an auxiliary, didn't, but your verb is going to be in base form. You're not going to change it. So now we're going to review this grammar to talk about the A2 Key Cambridge exam. If you need preparation for this exam, contact us. We will be happy to help you out. All right. When you take this exam, they give you 4 pictures. And then you have to write a story based on the pictures. These pictures have to do with past experiences, and if you're going to narrate a story about past experiences, you need to, or you very likely will have to use the simple present, the present perfect, and the simple past. So, what do we see in these pictures? Well, we see a plane in the picture, in the first picture, maybe that's about traveling, then a family in Paris, then a dish, and then a museum. So, we're going to put the 4 pictures together to create a story. Let's see. First picture, what can you say when you see this picture? I love to travel. Simple present to talk about a fact. Okay, then I always travel once a year. Facts, simple present. I always travel once a year. Subject I, verb love, travel. Next, when I travel, I prefer to fly. Numbers 1, 2, and 3, the 3 sentences are about facts. That is why you're using the simple present to talk about information that is true. Okay, factual information, facts. Number 4, you have the present perfect there. Why? Listen, I have flown to other countries many times. You're not talking about the present. You're talking about the past, but indefinite past. You're not saying when you have done this. You just say that you did it in the past, you have done it in the past, but you don't mention when. Many times in the past. How do you build the present perfect? Subject I, have auxiliary, flown, your verb in the past participle. And look at the expression, many times, indefinite past, right? But if you want to talk about a specific event, you need a simple past. And you have it here in yellow. We are going to see that. Number 1, for example, I have been to Paris with my family twice. When? We don't care. Just in the past. Subject I, auxiliary have, verb in the past participle, been. I have been. Twice. Okay, that gives you the idea that it happened in the past, but you're not saying when, but it happened twice, two times, right? Number two, our first visit to Paris was in 2019. Specific time expression, in 2019. That's why we're using the simple past. Subject, our first visit to Paris. Verb, was. Number three, we loved the trip. We loved the trip. So, subject we, verb loved. It finishes in ed because it's a verb which is regular. Okay? So, I have been to Paris with my family twice, indefinite past. When? We don't care. Numbers 2 and 3, specific past, simple past. Why? Because those two events are about situations that happened in 2019. Now, we are talking about 2019. On that trip, specific past, we went to a nice restaurant and ordered ratatouille. Okay. Verbs. We went, we ordered. The first verb is irregular. That's why it doesn't finish in ed. The second verb is regular. That's why it finishes in ed. We went, we ordered. Number two, we wanted to see what it is like. We wanted. That is in the past. Subject we, verb wanted, regular. It finishes in ed. It was, it was. Subject it, verb was. Perfect. That is the verb to be in the simple past. All of these sentences are in the simple past because you're talking about the events that took place in 2019 on that trip. Correct? Next, after enjoying the meal, look at the time expression. Now you have a phrase. After enjoying the meal, you're talking about what happened right after the event at the restaurant. We went to a museum. Specific time. We went. Subject, we went. Your irregular verb in the simple past. Number two, I have visited many museums on my trips. Present perfect. I have visited. How many museums? We don't care. When? We don't care. Okay, in the past. That's why we're using the present perfect here. I have visited. Subject I, auxiliary have, verb irregular in regular verb in the past, visited. But the experience with my family in that museum was special. So again, you're talking about 2019, specific in the past, simple past, subject, the experience with my family in that museum, verb was. Perfect. So, if you want to watch the whole class, visit agelanguages.com. If you visit agelanguages.com/videos, you will find the whole collection of videos that we have about English, explained both in Spanish or English. And if you visit agelanguages.com/blog, you will find articles about learning and teaching English. And agelanguages.com/readings is about free readings to practice test-taking strategies for international exams, all right? And test your reading comprehension. Interested in online English classes? Visit agelanguages.com/contactanos. Remember, we offer English classes online for all levels, all ages, and all needs. Thank you for interacting with our content on social media, and thank you for leaving your comments and your questions. Follow us on Instagram, also on TikTok, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. Of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Hello, thank you for being there. Are you there? Yes, Betty Hernandez, very good to see you. Can you hear me well? If there are problems, let me know, okay? So, because I had problems in the previous class, the very same class explained in Spanish, yeah, I had problems with my audio. So, if you think that you cannot hear me very well, let me know, please, okay? Great. So, are you ready for the writing class we're going to have now? Yes. Hi, my name is Antonio Galimberti. Welcome to this writing class. This is class number 65. And what are we doing today? We are talking about my visits to New York. 176 words, paragraph number 65, and this information is going to help us review past experiences. That's the context, how to talk about past experiences using the simple present, the present perfect, and the simple past. Remember, the simple present is used to talk about factual information, to talk about information that is true. The present perfect to talk about past events, about indefinite past, about past that is not attached to specific time expressions, and the simple past is the specific time that is attached to specific time expressions, so to speak. All right. This is the paragraph, my visits to New York, class 65, words 166, and I will be reading the paragraph. Pay attention to the reading, but focus on the examples of the simple present, present perfect, and simple past. Then we will be talking about how those three grammar items are used in this paragraph. I have been to New York twice. The first time I was there was in 2010. It was a memorable trip. I was in New York for a week. The most interesting thing I did was to cross all the New York bridges on foot more than once. The bridges are huge and it is very windy there. Crossing the Brooklyn Bridge was particularly special because this bridge is one of the most emblematic symbols of the city. Fortunately, it was not crowded when I was there, so I was able to take good pictures of the bridge. My second trip to New York was in 2015. On that trip, my main focus was to enjoy Central Park as much as I could. It has so many things to see and photograph. My favorites are the Bethesda Arcade and the mall. The arcade is underground, beautifully decorated with tiles. The mall is a pedestrian area surrounded by trees and benches. These two places are perfect for photography. Surely, I want to visit New York again soon. Nice. So this paragraph with 176 words has a nice introductory and a nice concluding sentences. The first sentence talks about visiting New York twice. The concluding sentence is about visiting New York again. So do you see the connection? Visiting New York twice, visiting New York again. So they are kind of like related. And remember, the topic sentence, which is the opening sentence in a paragraph, is telling you what the whole paragraph is going to be about. My visits to New York, that's the title. But pay attention to the first sentence. It says, I have been to New York twice. This is the present perfect. You use it when you want to say that you did something in the past, but you don't say when that happened. Okay? So you have the subject I, you have the auxiliary have, and you have been, the verb in the past participle. That verb has been taken from the third column of your list of irregular verbs. I have been. I have been to New York twice. So when, we don't care, we don't know. When did you go to New York? We don't care, we don't know yet. The present perfect doesn't give you that information. It also mentions that something happened, but we don't say when. If you want to talk about a specific event in the past and you want to say when that thing happened, then you have to use the simple past. And you see examples of the simple past here in yellow. The first time I was there, subject, verb, was. Subject, it, verb, was. Subject, I, verb, was. Next, the most interesting thing I did. That's the subject, verb, was. Next, crossing the Brooklyn Bridge, subject, verb, was. Subject, it, verb was not. Subject I, verb was. Next, subject I, verb was, but I like to say was able to, because that has the whole idea. Next, my second trip to New York, that's the subject, verb was. Next, my main focus, subject, verb was. Look at this. The first time I was there was. Next, it was. Next, I was. Next, the most interesting thing I did was. Next, crossing the Brooklyn Bridge was. It was not. I was. All of that is in the simple past because all of those ideas and actions are about what happened in 2010. Yes, and since you're providing specific information about specific events that took place at a specific time in the past, you have to use the simple past. The second part of the paragraph is about the things that took place in 2015. And you have my second trip to New York was in 2015, specific. Then my main focus was specific, simple past. Nice. But is it possible to use the simple present when you narrate a story? Yes, because especially if you're traveling, you will have to describe something, not necessarily an action, but for example, if you visit a park, you will describe the park. Okay, and you want to say the park is big, the park is beautiful, the park has many trees. You're using the simple present not to talk about a past event, but to describe or to talk about a fact. Okay, and this is what we have here. Example: the bridges are. Subject, the bridges. Verb are. Next, it is. Subject, it. Verb, it. Verb is. Next, this bridge is. Subject, this bridge. Verb is. Next, it has. Subject, it. Verb has. Next, my favorites are. Subject, my favorites. Verb are. Next, the arcade is. Subject, the arcade. Verb is. Next, the mall is. Subject, the mall. Verb is. Next, these two places are. Subject, these two places. A verb are. Next, I want to. Verb, want. Subject, I. So even though you're narrating a story, you're talking about the past, you may have to talk about facts, about the city, about a park, about a museum, about a bridge. So what happens? You use the simple present for that, right? So how do you connect your ideas? You can use green and yellow. Green are the important parts of the paragraph. I would say the important transitioning phrases. All right, that's how I would call them, because they are helping you to move from the first idea to the second idea and to the conclusion. Green, the first time I was there, and then you talk about the first time in New York. Then my second trip to New York was, and then you talk about the second trip to New York. Surely your conclusion. But if you pay attention to yellow, they are making everything that is in every single part of the paragraph logically connected. Okay? For example, the most interesting thing I did was, and now you're going to mention it because, and you're going to give a reason, fortunately, and you're going to say something, so, and you will present a conclusion on that trip, and that's your context in terms of time. My favorites are, you're going to mention two things that you like. The arcade is, you're going to talk about this. The mall is, you're going to talk about one thing. These two places are, you're going to mention two things or one thing about two previously places mentioned, or two places mentioned previously, I should be saying, right? Okay, so there are different ways to organize your ideas and to create transitions and to write smoothly, let's say from A to B. Okay, when you want to move from A to B, all right, you have to pay attention to green, which is going to divide your paragraph in 2 or 3 parts, and to yellow, which is going to connect the ideas between each part of the or among each within each part of the paragraph. Now we have here first visit and second visit. This is how I organized my ideas before writing the paragraph. So you can do the same, a graphic organizer with 2 ideas, and you just start writing. Now this is just an example because this has been edited already, but you can just take notes and write whatever you want. Yes, there. And then you can edit that, you can review that, and once you are sure about what information you can use, you will end up writing a beautiful paragraph like this one with 176 words about your visits to the city of New York. If you want to watch the whole class, agelanguages.com. And if you visit this website, our website at agelanguages.com/videos, you will find our whole collection of videos about English, explained both in English and Spanish. Visit agelanguages.com/blog and you will find articles about teaching and learning English. If you visit agelanguages.com/readings, you will find there readings that will help you develop your test-taking strategies for international exams. Interested in online English classes? Yes, visit agelanguages.com/contactanos. And remember, we teach all levels, all ages, all needs. Thank you for interacting with the content that we have on social media, and leave your comments and your questions, please. Follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Are you ready for the last part of this class? Thank you. So let's see what we have now. We have our pronunciation and vocabulary class. Here we go. Welcome to this class. This is a pronunciation and vocabulary class, class number 65. And what are we doing? We are going to be talking about past experiences and how important it is to review the present perfect and irregular verbs to talk about past experiences. If you are narrating a story, it's very likely that you will have to use the present perfect. And to make sentences with the present perfect, you need to use the verbs in the past participle. Okay, we have a list here of irregular verbs. This is not the whole list of verbs. It is a list that has a collection of 10 verbs and you can see that this list has 3 different columns. The first column is used for the simple present when you talk about factual information. The second column can be used when you narrate a story and you mention specific events that happened at a specific time in the past, simple past. And the third column, in which you find verbs in the past participle, is used to talk about the indefinite past. In other words, to talk about things that you did in the past, but that you don't mention when those things happened. All right, so memorize this third part of the column of the list if you want to use the present perfect correctly. And as you can see, the pronunciation changes, the spelling of the verbs changes, and sometimes there are some let's say coincidences or repetitions. For example, sleep, slept, slept. Right, so you have the same in 2 columns. Right, now look at number 2. Meet, met, met, the same. Met, met. Next, win, won, won, the same. Won, won. Nice. Look at the next one. Sing, sang, sung. You have sung and sung. This is different now. Next, speak, spoke, spoken. Spoke, spoken. Different. Fly, flew, flown. This is different. Some people pronounce it also flew, right? Next, drive, drove, driven. Drove, driven. Different. Next, write, wrote, written. Wrote, written. Different. Buy, bought, bought. Similar. Bought, bought. The same, I should say. Next, think, thought, thought. thought, the same. So be aware of the fact that when you use verbs, irregular verbs, in the simple past or in the past participle, there are going to be similarities, or they're going to be the same, but in most cases you will have to change them. All right, so that's why we're going to pay attention to the pronunciation of irregular verbs, some irregular verbs in past participle. Look at this one. It has 5 letters and 5 sounds. You have e as the sound. Slept, slept. This one has 3 letters and 3 sounds. The vowel e, e. Met, met. Number 3, 3 letters and 3 sounds. The sound, the vowel schwa, uh, 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 one, one, one. Number 4, 4 letters, 3 sounds. The vowel schwa, sung, sung. And you have a mix of N and G right there. And then 6 letters, 6 sounds, 2 syllables. The first syllable is the stressed syllable. And in the first syllable, you have O, wearing a hat. O, O. And in the second syllable, you have schwa, spoken, spoken, spoken. And then this one, 5 letters, 4 sounds. O with a hat, that's O. Flown, O, O, flown, flown. Next, 6 letters, 6 sounds, 2 syllables. The first syllable is the stressed syllable. You have e, 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 e. That is a weak e, e. It's not e, 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 but it's not e. It's not e, it's e. And then you have driven, driven, driven. Number 8, 7 letters, 5 sounds, 2 syllables. The first syllable is the syllable that is stressed, and in the first syllable you have e, 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 a weak e, no e, no e, 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 e. And then you have a mini schwa, written, written. Here you have 6 letters, I love this one, and 3 sounds. 1 vowel sound, o, bought, bought. That's it. Bought, bought. 3 sounds. This is even more beautiful. 7 letters, 3 sounds. The first one, th, interdental, th. Okay, then o, and then t. That's it. 3 sounds. Thought, thought, thought. Do you want to watch the whole class? Visit agelanguages.com. At agelanguages.com/videos, you will find the collection of videos that we have produced, explained both in English and Spanish. And at agelanguages.com/blog, you will find articles about learning or teaching English. Then at agelanguages.com/readings, you will find readings for you or your students in order to test your test-taking strategies when it comes to reading. Are you interested in online English classes? Visit agelanguages.com/contáctanos. Remember, we teach all levels, all ages, and all needs. Thank you for interacting with our content on social media. Leave your comments and your questions, please, and follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, also on Facebook, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. So thank you very much for being there. We have this Q&A section now. If you left any questions, I don't see any questions here. Thank you very, very much, Betty Hernandez, for being there with us today. And we really appreciate it. And thank you for watching our classes. Today we talked about past experiences. We reviewed the use of the simple present, the present perfect, and the simple past. Thank you very much, agelanguages.com, for making this video possible. And thank you for being there week after week. I just want to remind you that class number 66 is going to be the last class with this format. Okay? Yes, the last class with this format. So pay attention to the other things that we will be sharing with you. There will be news on the things and on the new formats. So please let others know about our YouTube channel and probably our YouTube channels, okay, that will be serving our different audiences. Thank you for being here. See you next week. Bye bye.